Hey there, David Corson, your guest host today, coming with you from the Real Men of Real Estate on KCAA out on the West Coast. Thanks for coming back in. And I'm sitting here with attorney real estate commercial developer Charles and Thunder, who's a multi-housing family flipper. And we were talking about the excess real estate inventory that's out there, that's happening in the country today, along with the the lagging housing market with interest rates going up and rental property. It's actually I just heard a stat this morning. I don't know, one of the YouTube guys I was watching. He said that it's more attractive to rent a place than it is to purchase one. So it's crazy. It's like an upside down world right now, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I'm positive that it is going to turn in. I'm a publisher and I cover the commercial market. So I talk to a lot of people, end users, the architects, the engineer, the contractors, facility guys, and they're all very positive. The biggest thing that they have is that with the space that they have to get done, there's labor shortages, there's permitting issues, and everything's just kind of everything is kind of have a hindrance, in getting these projects done. And, but they're all positive. They're all thinking that, God, I had a great year last year. I could have even had a better year if I would have had the labor. I could have done more projects, but a lot of them didn't want to bite off more than they could chew, as well as, in retail, everything is built on the opening, or a hotel or whatever they were building. Everything is done for the grand opening, and you move back, and that's how you build your construction schedule. So, if you don't meet the deadline and on budget and on time, it just kind of messes everything up. So those kind of schedules and plans, through the last 3 years, as we've opened up across the country, it really depends on what state you're in and what kind of regulations and how the state was opened. Obviously here I'm in Georgia, so we really didn't have a shutdown. A lot of the projects, went on, and but restaurants, if you were, in a restaurant, you probably took it on the chin. If you were fast food, you were booming. If you had a drive-through, you were cranking. If you didn't have a drive-through, so it really, you had to look at every kind of component. And then obviously, if you were an essential business, like long-term care or healthcare or any of that kind of stuff, you were busy. But what I'd like to ask you two gentlemen is that dovetailing off, the amount of real estate that's out there. What do you think that are going to be the telltale signs that things are on the upturn? At that, and will interest rates come down eventually? To cause that, to bring more buyers in to where right now they're getting kind of shuttered out, if you know what I mean. Charles?
When you really look at this, and I was thinking about it, David, while you were talking, in 2008, the market just flipped upside down. I mean, it went crazy, and we had to have the feds step in to help us. And when the Fed stepped in to help us, they actually helped us to get out of, the market where the market was flipped upside down. Real estate brokers, bankers, everybody's basically going out of business. So when I look at the market right now, where we have this slight inflation and where we have a little bit of a slowdown, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I'm thinking, okay, if we get out of 2008, we're going to definitely be able to get out of this market. And even though I said, and I was a little bit pessimistic, I said that it would take like 10 years. I mean, to really get over the complete idea of everything that happened here with COVID and with the real estate market, both colliding at the same time. I think we have to get around the COVID issue, and then we have to get around the unintended consequences of what happened with the real estate market based upon the COVID issues. And I think when we turn the corner on those issues, the market will rebound, as I said before. And like Thunder's in Minnesota. So when I look at the markets, and you're in Georgia, I like to look at them like what you said, David, look at them in like a separate way. Like your market didn't really take that big of a hit, but that in our market, we had mass exodus. People start leaving because of the taxes. People start leaving because of COVID and the way it was being managed and all of these things. And so when I look at it, like I said, I really think that we're going to make a very, very strong comeback because of the fact that I'm sitting here thinking, okay, 2008 was really bad. we had to have Bernanke, we had to have the feds and everybody step in to take care of things. And we haven't had that right now. So when we look at these different marketplaces, like you said, David, Georgia is not that bad. Thunder, I haven't heard what you said about Minnesota, but I really do think that this is gonna turn around. It's gonna turn around.
Thunder, what about Minnesota? Give us kind of a 10,000 foot look from
yeah, 10,000
your drone.
Yeah, we COVID, like you said, obviously COVID hit everybody differently, and it didn't really affect too much in Minnesota. I mean, for like you said, everybody had to do their thing, but like you said, the commercial side of things, I agree with you earlier when you said people are kind of hunkering down and didn't want to go anywhere. And and like you said, on the construction side of things, when I was flipping, I was having a tough time getting them there to do their job. And that was a constant battle. Like, it was just constantly battle. And if they'd come, they'd show up for a couple hours or whatever, and then they'd have to go to their other site to finish up something that came up or whatever. And it's just like, in the same aspect, I'm like, well, why can't you just finish up what you got going here, and then, because you're going to make more money finishing this up and instead of going there and then coming back. It was like I said, it was just a constant cycle battle there of why where their, like you said, where their mindset, the whole COVID, which I think you guys would agree too, that COVID there switched everybody's mindset of like, now we don't have to work as hard and still like you said, stay at home. And I get it, I get it. Like, people want to kind of back off and don't want to work, I guess, want to work as hard, but still, like, in the same aspect, I mean, we got to get the jobs done. We got to get this and that or whatever it is. I mean, so, and these companies still want to grow. I mean, so like I said, I hope we can get those people to turn back. And then the other thing, I was just listening to a podcast that was the other day, and he brought up the whole bringing up. Remember, it was more you guys, because I'm a little younger, but like, I can remember my dad always going to work with a suit and tie on. I mean, like you said, and he said, well, why can't we get those days back too? Bring out the suit and ties. And I'm like, well, that'll be interesting, because if we can get that and like you said, it's interesting how things turn. But
hey, when I sold my house, I had 150 silk ties. Yeah. I hadn't worn a tie in God knows how long. I had about 15 suits. I got rid of them. I kept my tuxedo that I got married in. I can still fit in it unbelievably. But ties, you're going to see logo shirts more than you're going to see any of that stuff, But I got to tell something about multi-housing. I put that column into my magazine along with cannabis, because it's getting regulated and legalized around the country. But multi-housing was such a hot market, and we put it into as a section in our magazine. And man, I mean, you can't imagine how many multi-housing projects I can look around in the different counties outside of Atlanta that are getting built. It is unbelievably hot. And once again, that's a double-edged sword, because a lot of people don't want apartments in there because it sometimes will devalue their own home, And I know the government right now is trying to take the zoning issues out, and it's Charles, getting back to where you said about 2008. I went through the dot-com burst when I launched my company in 2001. I went through 9/11. I was in New York, and I went through the 2008 fiasco, with Fannie Mae and all that. And my wife was in the refi business, so I used to see these contracts come over the fax, and I look and I'm like, that person should not get a house, okay? Right. And so I blame the government. I hate to say it, I blame the government for allowing the regulations to be eased. I think it was Barney Frank that was in Congress at that time doing all that stuff. But the biggest thing during 2008 was, the economy fell off the cliff. And listen, construction, man, it just got whacked. And where some of these big brands would have 10 people in their division or their segment in their headquarters, now there was one or two guys wearing all the hats. Right. And those people have not come back. And so Now, when this happened, it was a completely different game because in 08, people were still flying. They were still going out to restaurants. They were still going to, hockey or football games or lacrosse games, whatever it might be. Here, everything's shut down. And, it'll be a couple weeks. Oh, it's going to be a couple months. Here we are 3 years later. We're still dealing with it,
I don't know if you remember, but IndyMac and banks like that and the builders in 2008, they didn't put the brakes on. Builders were building and there was inventory all over the place. Now that somebody mentioned the recession and a little bit of a slowdown, the builders are in the lead on this part now because they stopped. And that's what I was saying to you.
They stopped.
California, they stopped. Now, like you said, in Georgia, people are still building. So in different segments of the country, people have different ideas about it because people in California are like, nah, we're slowing down because if we get caught again, we don't want to be behind that 8 ball because a lot of people went out of business, as you know, David. And, it's like, I think that people got wise to 2008. They got really smart because when the builders started this year and they looked at it and they said, there's going to be a recession and we're going to have to cut back. They started the year with that understanding. And, most regular people weren't looking for a recession. They were just looking like, okay, look, we're going to come out of COVID. Everybody's just happy to come out of COVID and get back out and get something to eat and walk around, go to a ball game and do whatever. They weren't really looking at it. I think the recession, though, it's going to like what they said, it's not going to be a long one. It'll last between 6 and 10 months, but people will still feel it later. They're not going to feel it now, but they will.
Well, and like you said too, like I talked to a big builder here in town, and he had 16 crews going 2 years ago, a year ago, and now he's down to 2. So like
I want you to hold that thought because we were coming up on a hard break for our commercial. So hang in there, everybody. We'll be right back.